In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can rotate objects that are on 3D layers. So once you've created something that exists in a 3D layer, you can do lots of things to it. Extrusion's usually a common one, but you can also animate its motion. In this particular case, we're spinning in an even amount of rotation this logo. It all begins with first setting up your graphics that you import and setting them up by converting them into 3D layers after you have changed the layers by creating shapes from their vector layers. So it's importing your graphic, taking your layer and creating shapes from it, but then it's also turning on the 3D layer aspects of it. So we have some here already that will turn on. They're already activated as 3D layers. But that rotation, how do we do that rotation? Well, if you remember in traps, and we'll start with our bottom here, we have rotation animations that we can do. In our traps, when it's not a 3D layer, I can rotate it on an X or a Y rotation. So just to kind of review, I have an X rotation that allows me to roll it backwards if I want it to spin and flip. Oops. I have a Z rotation that allows me to rotate it clockwise or counterclockwise. And what we animated here was the Y rotation. The Y rotation allows me to spin it. So again, X rotation allows me to roll it forward and backward. Y rotation allows me to spin it. And then Z rotation allows me to rotate it clockwise or counterclockwise. So I went ahead and animated on the Y rotation. And as you can see, it starts off with my keyframes. So we went to the beginning, and again, thinking in terms of how this looks when it starts and then how it looks when it ends. I start off in my 0 position. I add a keyframe, and everything is set to 0. Then I move down the timeline to where I want the animation to end at, and then I add another keyframe. But this keyframe is different. You'll see right in front of all of your rotations, you'll see one that says 0x, and then you see a 0.0. 0.0 is if I want to manually control how this rotates. But the 0x means that I can program into it how many times it just rotates completely. In this case, I programmed it in 2 times. So if I wanted to change this to 1 time or whatever, then I would say, let's go ahead and change this to 3. Let it render out. And so now when it spins, it's going to spin 3 times. But if I want the background to spin too, I've got to set it as well to match the settings here. So just keep in mind, if you have a single logo with nothing sitting on top of it, then you're going to have to, it's pretty easy at that point. You just set it to whatever amount of rotations that you want, and it spins, kind of like a coin. But if you have your logo in parts, and you don't set one to spin like the other, well then this is what you're going to wind up getting. It's literally going to turn in, and we'll show you through the views, See how it literally is passing through that. And that's why it looks like it disappears. So when you select your rotations, or any kind of rotation that you use, scale or anything like that, you're going to want to take into account how is it going to impact the other 3D layers that you have. So that if you see it start to disappear, hopefully this will remind you that you've got to take into account you're dealing with three-dimensional layers, 3D layers, and so you may have to adjust something else so that it matches whatever kind of transformation you're doing to it. So to create complete rotations, just use the 3x or 2x or 1x. X means how many times you want it to rotate. And that's how we do full rotations and transformations on 3D layers in After Effects.